Welcome to the Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Amosi Thurlow scale,
or Mounties,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello, welcome back to the Lost Signals Reviews, Film and Television. I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer, here with Rich Perry.
How you doing?
Stephen Ramosi.
Aloha.
And Scott Thurlow.
Hello there.
And in honor of our arbitrary comedy...
A vague comedy
for April.
block, yeah.
Hey, it's April Fool's month.
Sure. Yes, that's actually the justification behind why we do comedy. We're doing Super Troopers 2, a sequel that I don't think anyone asked for, but...
I sure did.
Some section of people did.
But I'm we'll talk about it. So I'm gonna. Does anyone have a funny logline at all? We forgot to discuss.
We didn't discuss this at all.
Because, like...
This is so Super Troopers.
Pick a random joke. I was going to say, pick a random joke from the movie, and that could be your logline, because they all fit.
Yeah.
Well,
The Rise of Danny DeVito?
Canadian
Sure.
bacon in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
that all works. So we'll move on to
Prank Canada.
ridiculous.
Go on.
We'll move on to the plot now. So this is obviously the sequel to Super Troopers, the original that came out a while ago. The Vermont police force goes up to Canada, which has been slightly annexed by
The borders have
US.
been redrawn,
Yes.
apparently.
And they get into a rivalry with local Mounties, have a lot of Canadian humor.
The town at large as well.
Played by Will Sasso and two other dudes.
Yes.
And Rob Lowe's the mayor of this town, and
He's also an ex-hockey player.
Yeah, of course.
Owns a brothel.
absolutely.
That's why he's a legend, eh?
And of course, they stumble upon a crime that they have to solve to redeem themselves, because to prove that their buffoonery
And they're real cops at the end of the day.
doesn't detract from their ability to solve crimes. And so this is not that different from the first plot. It just changes location, keep it fresh. I don't like. It's not even Super Troopers wasn't the best plot in the world.
Okay, go on.
I think the original had, because again it was the original. It allowed the plot to seem a little bit more like
Interesting.
Interesting.
In a sense.
So
Yeah.
basically what I'm doing is I'm giving it a 2 for being a repetition, but it's still a solid
It
storyline.
works well enough, yeah.
Again, it's a vehicle for their humor.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, it was the same movie as the first one with like slight plot
Twist, yeah.
beats like in different places and slight twists on the revelations and stuff like that. But
They even have Linda Carter show up at the end just
Yeah.
to screw them over.
every like they have like a character that is every character from the first movie, but Canadian. In this, like every character who's not the cops, like who's not know part of the Broken Lizard team or Brian Cox, they have somebody who is that character but a Canadian version, and like whatever, it works. It worked the first time, it works this time. I think it was really funny throughout. Like the plot is not the most important part of this movie by any means, and yeah, I mean I'll give it a soft 2. I would even possibly be convinced to go down to a 1 on this, because I think the rest of the movie is pretty strong, but it's the same old plot, like just redone. It was basically what you guys were complaining about Star Wars for doing with Force Awakens is what they did on Super Troopers.
Sure. I mean, that's the thing. I was looking at a 1 because of that very fact. But you guys made pretty like solid arguments for 2. Like, yeah. And I'm gonna reference like we just did like Three Amigos the other week for Comedy Month. So like it's almost like that. Like the setup is there, the plot, whatever plot there is there just to service like all the gags and jokes and so forth and all the little bits they're gonna do, the whole fucking thing. And yeah, but the thing is, you're right. That's basically the same plot in Canada. You know, like Die Hard in space, Super Troopers in Canada is potentially like that's a good log line there.
Yeah.
But because of that, like I might give it a very solid 1. But like the thing is, the plot is not the important point of this movie. It doesn't really matter in the end. Like they're just using it as a backbone, as a framework to do all the other wacky shit that you want to see.
Yeah.
But like given that, you're right. They used their formula pretty well. So like maybe I'll give them credit just to knowing what they're good at and sticking to it, and like not rehashing it per se. Like yeah, changing up couple things here and there that does make it seem a little bit more original than it maybe probably is.
Yeah, they subverted a lot of the original jokes, and I think that kept it fresh enough.
Yeah, you're right about that too.
Yeah, but it was always like that one, like, here's the joke. How do we make this joke different? We just like turn it on its head and that's it. Like a lot, there wasn't like much. There wasn't that much. There was a little bit, but like there wasn't that much like completely remaking a joke or just saying,
well, that might
hey,
be more like
this story
dialogue.
beat needs to be completely different than it was in the first movie. And like most of the story beats are basically the same.
Well, they do slight subversions on the story, if you will, because
Yeah.
they set up like at one point one of the characters goes, "Of course, it's the Mounties who are doing this because it's always the local cops who are
Right.
causing trouble."
And then they reinforce it right before they show up.
yes,
But that part is not
that's-
obvious.
Yeah,
we'll
but
say.
I'm not saying that it's again the greatest plot in the world. I'm saying that they took their formula, they made slight tweaks to it to.
They spiced it up, like or at least change some of the ingredients
Like
here and there.
like my I think the one subversion that sticks in my head is the opening, where you have them trolling the troopers as like a pull or
I mean, it's a good cold
pull
open.
over.
Yeah.
Gone wrong.
Yeah, but like, so like, let me ask you this question: did any of you guys not know that was a dream in the beginning? Because it was really fucking obvious.
Yes,
thought
I mean,
that
I
was a
knew
dream.
it was a dream. That is to say,
Right.
it was
It was a
obvious.
dream as soon as Matt got shot.
Did anybody? Yeah, of course. Did anybody think? Well, you know that he exists throughout the movie. But did anybody think that Rob Lowe wasn't the bad guy after like fucking 10 minutes
it's
of being
Rob Lowe.
introduced to him?
Yeah, but see, that's like, yes,
Like,
you're right about this. So,
Right? Like I immediately saw like they were gonna
Yeah, of
try and
course.
blame it on the Mounties, but it wasn't gonna be them. It was gonna be fucking Rob Lowe. Like, not that it's a bad movie by any means, but I thought it was obvious what this movie
and
was.
that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Again, I'm
they
just
know
gonna-
that you know that.
Yeah,
Sorry, I ruined that
in a
whole movie
sense,
for you.
they're like the Rob Lowe being the villain here. I think is a joke in and itself.
Of course,
Of the roles
It's a
that
meta
Rob
joke.
played,
Yeah.
Rob Lowe played back then. And again, it did the plot well. It kept the action moving forward, and it's just setting up situations for the humor to manifest.
No, I agree. I think I've decided that I'm going to largely take all those points and give them also points. I mentioned this super quickly. It was paced very well. Like it went by pretty quickly. It didn't drag. They're like, okay, now cut to the next, blah, blah, blah. Right? So given that means they're using the formula, like we said, quite well. So I think I'm going to come down with a pretty solid to soft 2, but still a 2. I think you guys were doing anyways, like originally. But I was kind of wavering.
What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Have I convinced you somehow to switch? Even though...
I might switch to a 1.
Huh?
I've convinced myself almost,
Even though, yeah.
but I think I'll stick with it too.
It's close, but I'll give them credit is what I'm saying. What do you think, Rich?
You give it a 3.
Ooh.
All right.
See, I would have given the original Super Troopers a 3 for the plot. So I understand where you're coming from. That I just don't think this one.
Yeah. In this case,
By the way,
sure.
Rich, keep talking with these.
Keep it going.
Status quo is God.
Yeah.
It's the theme of this movie.
Is it a theme or is this like what the movie is? Like, I mean, of course, my argument is 0. Like, because movies like this are not often, and especially not this one for sure. Like, they're not trying to teach you or like impart a message or whatever. It's a
We
turn
can
off.
tell that within the 18 years, I guess, that they've been off screen doing whatever. Like, they've matured a bit.
To an extent.
Yeah, to an
Sure.
extent.
But I'm saying, like, the point I'm trying to get at is that this is a, like, turn off your brain, just go to the movies and enjoy it, like, laugh along with it in a sense movie. It's not trying to, like, say anything about really anything. It's making a lot of, parody, like, social satire, but that's just for service of jokes. I don't think it's saying anything.
I
But
completely disagree with that.
okay.
Because this movie does have a lot of dumb humor in it. And I went in expecting not to have anything, coming out with anything thoughtful. But one of the things they really did here was So I saw another review criticize it for having a lot of Canadian humor, making
fun of Canada. Yeah.
But they did and they didn't at the same time.
I agree
because
with
they
that, but-
oftentimes had the Canadians
Yes.
giving it right
Like-
back to Americans.
the callback to the very first bit that they did where they were making fun of that guy, the way he said sorry. And then at the brothel, they just like almost bring them to,
Yeah, sure.
like, I wouldn't say tears, but they're like speechless
Like
by how badly
Who
they're
says
getting ripped
sorry?
on.
Sorry, like an American says sorry.
Like
But-
I get
but
what you mean.
The
Going.
way a lot of comedy, especially like 80s, early 90s, has kind of American exceptionalism to it.
Yes.
We have the right to make fun of whatever culture
America
we
saves a
want.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And this one, yeah,
Both countries are equally dickish. Like essentially,
I think that's the beauty of it.
Everyone's an
is a
asshole.
jerk.
But then again, it's like you can see that in like Beer Fest
maybe.
too.
Yeah.
Like they get ripped on hard by every country.
Yep.
Sure.
I mean, I love that. So, where are these guys from originally? Are they Canadian?
I don't know. Broken Lizard. I thought they were American, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know who's Canadian, who's American anymore. Apparently,
Well,
the
anyway,
boundaries are
like,
literally
We're
being
all
withdrawn.
American in North America.
Yes.
for some reason I thought they were Canadian or
I don't know.
something. But anyway,
But does it matter?
no, I guess
extent,
not.
like,
But like it does
they might,
if it
depending who your viewpoint is.
whatever.
you need a research guy like off screen.
But I agree. Like
We'll
there
get that
was
next
a lot that went into like the dismantling the Canadian nice guy theory, right? Like
Sure,
the Canadian Mounties were as much of dicks as they were, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think there's more to this, and there was actually a good amount of like political back and
Some.
forth, which wasn't like super deep or anything, but it definitely was like touching on like what Canadians think of Americans in terms of like the politics of America and like the way that things are going here. There's a joke about they were like, oh, we became independent in like 1982 or something like that. They were making fun of them. They're like, oh yeah, maybe if we've been independent for longer, we'd have like terrible gun laws and like like.
It was a good joke. You're right. I did laugh at that one.
The
but-
thing is, they took the
They both-
preconceptions both sides have of each other, played it to them coming to a unity, finding common ground, only to divide immediately. When it comes, I don't know. I think that there was a
Enough
bit
there,
more than
yeah.
just dumb jokes in here, and enough that I perhaps because my bar was so low going in. Although
Sure.
you point out, who did Beer Fest was smarter than I thought it would be as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them credit for
That's tough, man. Yeah.
that.
I mean, again, that's a pretty convincing argument because you're right to an extent. Like, yes, I noticed that. So you're saying they basically embraced and subverted like the stereotypical like tropes, like more or less. And I thought, yeah, in a well-used way, like in a funny way, like subverting your expectations as well. So yeah, that's true. But I don't. It's tough. I'm almost kind of 50-50 now.
Hey man, stick with your fucking thing.
Does anybody else have anything to like
I've said
to
my
say
piece.
about themes?
Maybe you got something else, Rich. I don't know.
No, I think Ian hit the nail on the head.
All right. I think I've been convinced just over the line for one on themes. I think there's enough there. I guess you can get from it, even though I didn't see it as much at first, but I could see where you get it from. Go on.
Steven,
Yeesh.
talk about the antagonist and who that would be in this.
It's an interesting question. Is it Rob Lowe? Is it the Mounties that are their antagonists for the whole movie until you realize that they're not the bad
big
guys?
bad,
They've
yeah.
been set up as the bad guys the entire time.
Or is it Wonder Woman?
Or is it Wonder Woman?
It's all of them.
Or is it Brian Cox for attempting to reunite these jerks?
These fumbling fools. It's him too. It's everyone. That's going to be my argument. So
Or is it the mayor for bringing back Farva
yes, it's everyone
against everyone's wishes?
I'm telling you. Go on.
I mean, it's. I guess it has to be Rob Lowe, like the main antagonist, right? Like
In terms of story,
he
sure.
is like pushing the drug. But like the thing is, he's not the one antagonizing them for most of the movie. The Mounties are. I would say that they are kind of the main antagonists, but they turn out to be just the Canadian version of our heroes, right?
Of our ostensible
Yeah.
protags. Sure.
Like this is a weird question because I think they are antagonizing the entire time, and I think that's like one of the mainstays of like a Broken Lizard production is like they always have this antagonism between
some
two
other
groups
group
going on, and that's like what drives the comedy for most of the movie, whatever it is.
That's a good point.
But also, like you don't really know who the real bad guy is in this movie until the very end.
Well, you do on a meta level, but
right? Like I knew exactly that Rob Lowe was going to turn out to be a scumbag, but
sure.
You know, you're not supposed to know like that he's the bad guy. I'm probably gonna end up giving this a 1 just because of the interplay of those things. But like, I don't know. I'd like to hear it from the rest of you guys.
So the other points that you convinced me to give themes of 1 to I'm shipping here is that everyone's an asshole, like pretty much, right? The Mounties are just as dickish as you said as the cops.
That's why it's funny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know?
So like on that front, like that's kind of my argument. I know it seems jokey, but also at the same time, like it's almost played out the entire movie is everyone's a dick to each other and everyone else as well around them. Like, yeah, there's like a camaraderie between two groups, but even they fuck with each other as well, just as much as they fuck with everybody else. So like, it's just, I don't know, again, people being people, if you will.
Why I think this movie really worked is because of that dynamic. I think you could make the movie following the Mounties.
And it would just be
and it would have worked
just as well.
You know what's brilliant about that? You just made me think of that scene, that Danny DeVito scene that we loved in the movie. Not only was
Save it for dialogue.
Not only was it fucking hilarious. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the dialogue of it specifically, but like, not only was it hilarious, but it was so important for making them the same as you know
it was their character moment.
Our boys from Vermont, the highway, you know, the highwaymen. Like it is a super important scene in like multiple ways. Like I just kind of realized that, and that's awesome. Anyway.
No, so I'm giving antagonist a 1, given that everyone basically fulfills the role to each other and to Group X versus Group Y, and like then the mayor and then like the CIA chick, like all that shit.
There were so many double crosses in this movie that I lost track.
It's like a parody of a Bond movie also as well.
It was like 4 double crosses. There wasn't that many.
Whatever. Either way though.
Now for the twist.
And I will. Yeah.
She's
and
down with OPP.
Yes, this is a good joke too. But no, like, and also of course, like if it within the story itself, Rob Lowe as like the scumbaggy like. Shady mayor / brothel owner, etc. of the town. Yeah,
I feel like Canada itself is the antagonist.
/ passive.
It depends
smuggler.
who you are, right? They felt that America was the antagonist. The cops. That's what I'm saying.
What was it? They were the angry mob the first time, the angry mob the second time.
Yeah.
I do love the term passive smuggler, by the way.
Yes.
U.S. gets to be the angry mob in every other movie.
Exactly.
So let's give Canada a shot.
So anyway,
I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah, me too. On all the fronts.
Yeah, 1 from me for sure.
All right, Scott. Protagonist.
Well, then that means, of course, ostensibly the Vermont Highway crew, troop, whatever it is, it's supposed to be, of course, like the ones you know and love from the first one to follow them. But
the Cox crew.
But given what I just said, and building on what you also just said, the Mounties could be like sort of protagonists. Like they're the best secondary character, I would say, if you lump them as such. So like, I guess I'll just follow what the movie wants us to think.
They were way more fleshed out than the local cops from the last movie.
Yeah, exactly.
They were. Because there were so many more of the local cops from the first
which
movie.
Which is what I was saying after the movie. Like, I'm glad they kept it to just 3 of them.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to have like 5 versus
Even though that
5.
makes no sense that they only had 3 people.
Well, they wouldn't even time for that in this kind of movie. But not like, so of course, if you're going to say the troop is the hero, is the protagonist, then yeah, like they're the same fucking idiots you remember and like knew from the first one.
Yeah.
Sure, like they show some exhibits of like having some kind of growth here and there, but like immediately snap back just in the service of a joke. It's like that you don't really care about their characters per se, other than how they're gonna fuck with whoever they're gonna fuck with.
But even less so, like here's the funny thing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like in the first movie, there was like character growth of like several of the characters. Like Foster gets into a relationship.
Sure.
Like now you just see that relationship just
shipped on a bus.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't exist. Like Rabbit kind of gets into a relationship, except for that's all fucking bullshit anyway. Like fucking Thorny has a kid at home and like a wife maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, they never got married.
Yeah, that's right. But like he just like leaves. You never see anything having to do with that. So like, there's no actual character growth for them.
Well, his kid's got to be like in his 20s at this point.
I think that actually Mac had the most development of all. Of
I
the
could agree with
characters in
that
there.
to an extent. Yeah.
I guess.
If
Well,
only he had more screen time, I think, than he did in the first movie.
I don't know. All I'm saying is like,
That, and he brought Farva back to life.
true. He had a heroic
That was
moment,
all of his development.
I guess.
Making out with Farva.
But like I said, like you're not there for them to per se, but yes, you are. But so given that, you want to see them be the characters in their roles, and that you do get to see that. So
Yeah.
I'll give them credit again for
Do you have to
dropping
say,
back
though,
into those characters pretty
as far
easily.
as growth too, like they were a lot more competent in this one.
Sure,
Like literally everything that Foster bought, they ended up needing to
of
use.
course. It's all Chekhov's equipment shit. Sure, and like whatever, that's fine. So yeah,
I was actually trying to pick
Except
out
for the yellow.
which
uh,
one.
Yeah, the yellow safety
yellow
vest.
safety vest.
When he was doing that, I was trying to pick out which decide which one
He's
it
gonna
was going to
use.
come
Yeah.
to
yeah.
be important
I
later.
figured it would be the triangulator. The second time, it's like, well, why would you ever need that?
Of course, like it's a huge lampshade. So yeah, so I'll give protagonist a solid one, soft one maybe, but still one.
They did a lot of the setup in the first movie.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if someone went into this movie
Fresh. Yeah.
fresh. But I think
think
they
it stands
handled
on
it
its own.
well.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Yeah.
I'm not here for.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
I still end up giving themes a one, so I'm giving them one.
Yeah,
too.
I'm gonna give it a 1. And that was just like my kind of. If I have to give it a little mark off,
Sure.
that's kind of where I would.
But again, I guess my final thought is it's going to be the nature of this genre always, kind of in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I'll move on to supporting now. It's weird because we covered a lot of it already.
Just give it a 1 and move on.
I don't.
No.
I guess that's a
Go.
problem then, because if the Mounties count as supporting, then it definitely gets a 1 because I think they're. I don't want to say that they helped uplift this movie to be an enjoyable.
I would say they
watch.
stole a couple of scenes,
What
and
about
that
Brian
was
Cox? You know,
Brian
Yeah,
Cox
we're getting to
is
him.
a great
Phenomenal
actor, and he did a great job here. I can tell he has a lot of fun
Yeah.
doing this kind of Greenfield
I
man.
love that. I love when he starts screaming at them during karaoke.
Yeah.
Sit the fuck down.
I feel like they wrapped this like
That might
they
have been
wrapped this
ad-libbed.
movie, and he was like, "All right, boys, see you in 16 years." Or whatever.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the other supporting characters were like Jim Gaffigan has a
It's a cameo.
role,
Yeah.
Some
but,
return.
Emmanuel Shakiri, like he was a fairly like important
Yeah.
part of the plot.
yes, that's true. But again, like there's a lot of comedians having
Show up,
brief,
yeah.
friends of like the people. In
Sure, it's the
their,
Adam Sandler effect.
yes, exactly. The Adam effect.
I guess.
So again, depending on you guys, convince me about.
All right. Well, I think if we're counting the Mounties as kind of characters, and yeah, like almost all the credit will go to them because of everything we said about them, and their bits were perfect. Like there are character building moments and funny as well at the same time, and it made sense, where they fit in the universe of where they were at. And like I think the town itself could be like all that townsfolk and
that's
shit.
That's
you
what
know
I was
mean?
going to make an argument for.
Yeah.
Like every single person that screamed out something from the crowd, every single one of those people had like a scene stealing line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, you got all the cameos, like you said, but even like the waiter at like the chicaneries
Yeah,
or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, right? Yeah, I mean that was a good joke too. It's not shenanigans, it's chicaneries.
What does
In
Farva
Canada.
say?
I wonder if there's a place like Shenanigans.
No, he's like, this place doesn't hold a candle to shenanigans.
Welcome to chicaneries,
Welcome
eh?
to chicaneries.
That was a really great callback joke. Sure. So like all that shit, like the character of the town itself, whatever bumblefuck town they were in or whatever, like the border of Canada, blah blah blah.
Even the bit when he's like stamping the when he's punching the card.
Yeah.
It's like you got to finish all of it. It's like just let it go, man.
Just
Get him
just
to
do it,
Give to
dude.
him. Yeah.
But yeah, so like all that, so like I'm gonna give it probably a solid 1 because of all that shit, and it's definitely the Mounties for most credit.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean Mounties, Brian Cox, amazing, and I don't count I count Brian Cox as like a supporting character in all this, and just like you say, just for the Mounties, I say just for Brian Cox, I would give it a 1.
Sure.
I love how like he's definitely a supporting character within the movie, but he has as much importance and screen time.
well,
as
he's
the
got that presence,
Yeah.
man. He's Brian Cox, like
Yeah.
he fucking
He's the
fills
leader of his
screen.
men, dude. you know?
He's the father figure to all of
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
I love,
He's good.
just that scene of him calling Mac in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going for this is where we're
It's a
going
good
fishing.
moment.
Yeah, just north of the Canadian border.
Yeah, it was solid. So yeah,
just it's him at karaoke.
we'll get to that in dialogue, I think, soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's continue on to dialogue now with Rich.
Oh God, where do I start? I am definitely planning on rewatching this movie as much as I rewatched the first one because I want to quote all of the lines that I heard. In here.
Right.
And it just, well, you guys heard me. I was laughing pretty much the whole movie.
Yeah.
Sure, man. Like, I'm coming down with like a 65, 45 or 55, whatever equals 100, but 65 for like solid. Like, the jokes landed more than I thought they like missed. Not all of them landed, but many of them did. For me,
the jokes, the string of jokes that got me were the bits with the metric system.
Sure. Like, that was a good running gag.
Like, it was a great running gag. Like, especially when he's trolling Farva. He's like, that's a big
16.09 kilometers.
Farva's so happy they have liter of cola.
Yeah, you're right. Like, there was like,
what'd you just say?
huge brick joke setups.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the dialogue in this movie is actually pretty strong, and like, you know, just as strong as the first one. Like, the jokes land almost at the same like rate, just as good.
And what I love about the jokes that don't land, they don't land within the movie itself. Like, you see, like,
yeah,
like when,
everybody's like,
yeah. Like when Thornhill was doing the enhanced thing, like Foster's like, all right, that's
Sure.
enough.
Like, yeah, they lampshade a lot of shit. Like, that's kind of the thing, and they're going for references, and I like the callbacks to the first one. I didn't think we were saying precast that they didn't use them too much. Didn't like call back some shit that I thought like they were going to, but didn't. Like, that's good. So yeah, I'll give them a lot of credit, and yeah, it kept it going. And I thought when a joke that I thought actually didn't land, regardless of whether it was not in the movie, they moved on to something else like quickly enough. Yeah. So,
to build on your point you just made, I think that they didn't rely on the first movie
as a crutch. Yeah,
that's what I was afraid of. Yeah,
and
that was a danger with this. Yeah,
right. Yes, there were callbacks, but a lot of times it was a callback to make a
subversion of it. Like, it was a subverted callback. Yeah,
exactly.
This actually reminded me quite a bit of Reno 911, the movie.
Okay,
in that. I think there are different types of humor there to a certain extent, but also, I felt that my level of enjoyment and the ratio of hits to misses was similar to that, and I enjoy Reno 911 in Miami, and I enjoyed this one, and I was entertained the entire time, and I didn't cringe once in this entire thing, and that's a big thing for me, and so I'm going to give it one for that.
And I will say my final thought is like there were a couple of jokes that like we laughed at, but I felt like other people in the audience maybe didn't get or missed even something that they missed. So I was like, I'll give them credit on that. Well, it's like with the more intelligent ones, like the healthcare joke, or like the America's like the independence thing. Yeah.
So, yeah, they did. They hit all around the board, lowbrow, highbrow.
Yep.
So that's once for everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to give it
a
one.
I think so.
I just want to say real quickly that we went into this movie knowing, having looked at Rotten Tomatoes for like the score and IMDb, and like I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like when we came in, this movie had like a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like expecting just basically Anchorman 2.
Lazy shit, yeah.
Yeah, just lazy writing, and we went in and like, no, they fucking revamped their whole thing. Yeah, it was similar to the first one, but they revamped a lot of jokes, they subverted a lot of their jokes from the first one, and they kept shit fresh. Like, I don't know why this is getting panned so hard.
So you think if they do a third one, it's going to be like a Last Jedi type of...
I don't know.
We'll see, I guess.
But I think that the first movie got panned pretty hard too, and like by
sure. I mean, it's
like it became a cult classic for a reason.
Yeah. So whatever.
I'm with you.
So okay, Steven,
style. This is interesting.
Yeah.
There's good use of like music, I think, and callback music, and I saw at the end that all the original music in this was done by
Eagles of Death
Metal,
saw that.
which is kind of awesome. But the music I thought was used well. We were talking about the Big Bear callback earlier before. He's Big Bear.
Can't get enough.
Yep.
And the cinematography is whatever. It's standard like Broken Lizard.
That's perfectly
It's
competent,
fine.
dude. Yeah,
It's nothing amazing. It's not like you're gonna be like, oh, the shots were so beautiful. Like, look at that wide shot of like a vista or something like that. But it's fine. I don't know if I have anything amazing. I might give style a 0. I'm not sure yet. But I'm kind of like on the edge there.
I'm gonna give it a 1, sort of because of what I just said. That they kept it. It was. I guess I gave it credit for pacing, but same thing. Like when they're doing a gag or a bit, and it's like in danger of like being drawn out, they're like, okay, they knew when to end that. So like I count that kind of like as like knowing how to set up bits and then move on.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you're right. Like, is the cinematography amazing? No, because it doesn't need to be. Like, it's fucking comedy. But I think I might give style like a softest 1, but because of that, what I just said.
I often count genre in for
yeah.
style.
Yeah.
How did this work as an effective comedy? And as you just made a good argument for that, but I mean evidence submission
Okay.
A, the Fred Savage joke
All right.
is a well put together
Easter egg
joke
kind of.
over the course of an entire movie.
I agree.
But again, that's the same as the bus joke, the Farva from
No,
the first movie.
it's better done.
No, but here's the thing: it's like it's fine if they're the same. It's fine if it's better done. The thing is, they're competent comedians.
Yeah. Oh
Is
yeah.
the point.
Yeah, they know how to use their
they're-
style of comedy.
Sight gags were funny. The Rob Lowe doing the
the bag, the
punching
speed
bag.
bag on
Yeah,
the fucking
speed bag,
dick,
yeah.
Bag in
on
a
the guy's
cock.
dick.
Yeah.
okay, overall, I think that they're very competent comedians. I'm going to reward their comedic style here. Because granted, you're right. Cinematography, music, not really important to this. Do their jokes function as jokes? They do, and they function well. And if I wasn't dying with like splits in my side from laughter, no, but I had a smile on my face and I was enjoying the movie the entire time.
They kept
I
the
was-
chuckles coming for me, I guess. And sometimes it's like,
It felt very
better than
quick,
that.
I think, as you pointed out, Scott. Like it moved along very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give it a 1 for that.
yeah, that's basically what I'm doing as well in this case.
Definitely giving it a 1.
Yeah, in terms of actually thinking about it, like in terms of like comedic style, it is good. I like where they went with it, and I had several like big, like belly laugh
Sure.
almost type of moments, and like that doesn't happen all that often anymore in a movie. Like
That's fair.
it's usually like
Because we're so jaded
well, I mean, it's just like
in a
not.
sense.
It's so much easier to be funny when I've seen a lot less. When I like now, I kind of know what's coming in a comedy, and you need to subvert that in terms of like where you're going with your humor in order to get a laugh out of me. I'm not going to laugh the same thing over and over and over again, just as I'm sure you guys all feel the same way. So yeah, I will give it a 1 for
Just
that.
thinking back over my favorite jokes. Like I'm throwing Mac's dead body out of
Like that was an amazing cold open, yeah. Yeah. It was a nice early setup, and you're like, okay.
And as he's like stuck in the tree with his thumbs up.
Yeah. Solid setup.
And when they're embracing you, the coolest guy.
I did like that too. That was a good one. Yeah, man. It's,
That got a full laugh out
all
of me.
those, there's things like that throughout the movie. So that's, I think why you got to give style a 1, perhaps.
What's it like being the coolest guy in the fucking world?
Well,
Why don't you tell me?
I was going to save that quote for the end to sign off, but
Sorry.
we'll do it again. We'll call back to it.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, recommendation.
So this is one we were also like, I guess at the end of the day, and given how we just talked it out, like, what the caveat is, if you're into this sort of shit, then yeah, it's pretty fucking solid. If you're a fan of the original, it definitely is like a good spiritual successor, a good follow up. That doesn't like fall flat. In fact, it hits, like we said, more than it misses, and doesn't miss very often. And also they're competent. They know how to run their comedy, know how to use it to write the jokes they want to make. So yeah, if you're just looking for a good time, sit back and laugh throughout, and kill like an hour and a half or whatever. Yeah, it's fucking solid. It's not going to be the most mind-blowing movie or the best comedy ever, but it will be enjoyable. So I could say I could recommend it.
Like when I first watched the original Super Troopers, I already want to watch this movie again, and that's my recommendation.
Fair enough. If it gets you to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Rich
I fully agree.
also alluded to that, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give this a 0 because I don't think it's a must-see film, but
But is
the
that
way we
recommendation?
just talked about it, we've been reviewing movies for a long time. This felt the most like, for the first time in a long time, us reminiscing about a movie we really enjoyed watching and like reliving the moments. So I might have to give it a 1 for that.
Sure.
If you can get that
Feeling
experience out of it, then I think
the movie has done a good job.
Yeah.
And you could say, hey, you might like it too.
I think it's a recommend. Like the problem is not everyone's gonna feel that way about this movie. A lot of
Sure. Like I said,
Fuck.
granted.
it's like
I'm sorry, that's way
it's
too
just
harsh.
it's like when people
We
watch
respectfully
Dumb and
disagree.
Dumber, and like everybody's like, half the people were like, "Oh, this is an amazing comedy," and half the people were like, "This is so fucking stupid. I can't understand why people would watch it." This is kind of that type of
Yeah,
comedy,
like I get that, but still. You're right. Your mileage is going to vary, but I think broadly it's enjoyable, and especially, of course, if you're a fan of the original and a fan of Club Lizard, Broken Lizard, whatever, in general.
Club Lizard
Club
Dread.
Broken
Broken.
Lizard. Yes.
All right, so I guess I
Where's that
will
leave us? Yeah.
tally the scores.
Yeah.
And this is a surprise, actually, especially after like where we just came out of the theater. Oh, what do you think you're going to give this? What do you think? Well, here's what we gave it. Rich, you give it a 10.
I knew it was gonna happen.
Nice.
I knew it was gonna
Yeah.
happen.
And the three of us gave it 9s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh?
And I believe that's a 9.25 overall.
Yeah,
Hey, man.
sounds like it.
It hit some points in our scales.
But that's the thing is that I like Super Troopers, the original. I really liked this one. It brought me back to that.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's playing on my nostalgia a little bit.
I was waiting for you to bring that point up,
Yes.
but still.
Yeah, but I don't.
But
think-
nevertheless.
because I still enjoyed watching this movie. I still found it very funny, and
I guess-
my
Sorry, you just made me think of something while you were talking. So my final thought on perhaps like whether or not recommendation and why it should get a 9, whatever, is that if you threw somebody who hadn't seen the first one and they like this one, which I think they would, then they would probably go back like instantly want to watch. Like it's almost like a lost classic. You're like, oh, this is the second movie, in the thing. Yeah, like yeah, you should definitely see the first.
You know what would be awesome? Like just having a day where you get a bunch of friends together and watch the first and second movie.
Sure,
Like back
double feature is always
That'd be
good, too.
fucking great.
Do it tomorrow.
Well, we're gonna see if we can get the
that's
second
right.
one.
Or next time you
Oh,
can.
yeah, that's right. It came out today in the theaters.
But yeah, so that's just my final end off.
Yeah, we'll fix that in post.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer here with Rich Perry,
Glittering Ann.
Steven Ramosi,
And just to fuck with Scott because he didn't get in the movie, the snozberries taste like snozberries.
Yeah, thanks.
and Scott Thurlow.
We see you next time. Have a good one.
Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?